everybody, and welcome to episode 87 of GuildGab. This is a show all about Guild Wars 2. Welcome back, guys. It's been a while. I'm Peachy, and I am here with my wonderful friends and co-hosts, MMOINKS, Alex of the RPG Shack, and Corvus Plays. Today, we're going to be discussing the latest Guild Wars 2 patch, The Head of the Snake Living World episode, Season 3, Episode 4. I always mess that up. And the new raid wing, Bastion of the Penitent, and all bevy of other updates and stuff. It's going to be a great show. This is your spoiler warning. We are talking about anything and everything. All story spoilers are on the table. We're going to be discussing it in detail, theories, speculation, all that. So, let's get into it, guys. How did you guys like this episode?
Yeah.
It was alright.
It was... Oh, whatever.
It was, no, you know what?
It was really good.
This was my favorite episode of the season so far.
Yeah.
It was really good.
And what's interesting is I was talking with a friend last night who he had just finished the story yesterday, and I was going on and on. I'm like, oh my god, it's so amazing. I love it. I love all the lore and everything. And he's like, yeah, but it has this problem, this problem, and this problem. And I'm like, I didn't even think about that. I hate this episode. No, I'm just kidding. my initial reaction, my initial playthrough, and even after discussing it in more detail, like we're going to do here, and you start to point out some of the problems that some people might have with the episode, still my favorite episode, still my favorite map so far of all the maps that they've done. Even event-wise, NPC-wise, reward-wise, just like, you know, it's interesting. Somebody said to me that the magic vendor in that map has a lot less rewards than like some of the other maps, maybe, because there's not really a ring or an accessory. It's you get a necklace and then there's a back piece. But the rewards are spread out in hearts. Like the hearts have.
Yeah, I love that.
I feel like a lot more rewards, you know?
Yeah, they're better.
Sure. And it's super karma heavy, which is nice because, and they've been doing this for a while with the maps because, you know, for a long time, karma just doesn't have any use. And depending on how much you like minis, you know, maybe you save several 100,000 million karma because maybe you don't care about the minis. But even if you don't, there's 2 new weapon skins. There's a shield and a staff, which are like 200k karma each.
It's the Peachy staff.
Yeah,
it's
and I don't know. There's a new mini tonic to make you mini.
Mini?
Yeah. lots more incentive on this map to do the hearts and to farm the jade shards. I feel like personally. I know they released a back piece on every map so far, but personally, I didn't feel the incentive to go after those for myself. I was like, I don't think I'll use those back pieces. Sure, it might be fun to go after them at some point. But there's like multiple things on this map that I love. And like you said, there's more than just a back piece and a couple minis to go for. They added in really unique weapon skins and the mini tonic and stuff. And I saw people going crazy in like map and guild chat about the mini tonic. And people were just loving the rewards. They were loving the map and the story. And just overall, I get this very positive vibe from this episode.
Yep. Yeah, and
agreed. This is. Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say that the Elder Scroll that you can get as the back reward it's so dumb, but so cool.
What? Shut up! No way!
It's ridiculous.
It is, look, it is the size of me. It is gigantic, and I love its. Listen, I mean, if you were going to write an Elder Scroll in real life, you would get a 10-foot parchment and start writing on it. You could carry it around on your back.
Out of the 4 back pieces so far that we've got, it's out of the 4 back pieces from each of the living story bits. It's certainly the best, or it's certainly my favorite. I think it's just nice to kind of have you know, a couple more options because I wasn't that crazy about the Bloodstone one. The Bloodstone one from Bloodstone Fen, or the one from the Bitfrost Frontier.
The skull with the ice horns.
The skull was cool.
They
this
were
is
all
my
very,
favorite back out of
They
all
were
of them.
all very appropriate for their map, though.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But what I feel like's good about this map is just that this one is the first map that they've added since Heart of Thorn. Well, not including the Heart of Thorns map that feel like a kind of a normal Guild Wars 2 map shrunken down,
isn't it?
Basically,
it's a big map.
I think
Mhm.
all of the ones that were added with the season so far have kind of felt a bit like a novelty. Bitterfrost Frontier was good, and I like the kind of variation there, but I think Ember Bay and Bloodstone Fen just are maps that you go to for the story. You maybe play around a little bit, but you probably are never going to go back. Kind of like how South Sun is. Well, this one definitely feels like I also like the kind of Crichton tile set. It
I
feels
do too.
there's like an air of
Yeah.
nostalgia, and you're already familiar just because of how it looks.
Mm-hmm.
And then the way they've designed events and
I
the fact that there's like a jumping puzzle and there's like a little secret area and then there's all this stuff. It feels more like an actual Guild Wars 2 map, and it's definitely my favorite so far.
I mean, they've quite obviously had it in development for a while because it sort of made its way into the Chinese client a while back, or a version of it did.
Well, all right. So that was so, and we have a little bit more information on this thanks to Lindsay I think it was Lindsay Murdoch. You know, she had said that I think it was a map that Izzy had started working on, or Izzy had some involvement in it, or something like that. Where this was an early Lake Doric, the original Lake Doric, which was straight above DR and not to the side.
Yeah.
Was a very different map. You can see it on the Chinese client when they got access to it, and Wood and Potatoes did like a 3D tour of it or something. And so this map is very different. It's a different location. It's fresh. Certainly some of the ideas are probably borrowed from that old map, but
yeah,
I mean this is a completely different map, even if it shares the same name.
Yeah, but it's actually like, I mean, so do we want so where do we want to start talking about the map, or like the story, or
Well, just to add to the map thing, I think because I never said anything about the rewards. I agree. I think the rewards are way more varied. There's a bit more for everyone, while the hearts before were just kind of minis. And if you didn't care about that, then there wasn't really much incentive there to do it. The rewards feel a lot more varied. They feel there's weapon skins, there's like the back piece, there's minis, but there's also cool things like the tonics, and just little neat stuff that you can work towards. And already in the few days that the patch has been out, I have more currency for this map than any of the others. Yeah. Because I've wanted to play in it a lot more than the others.
The currency is interesting. So it's this mix of Bloodstone Fen, which is, you mine the Bloodstone, and this one you mine Jade Shards. But it feels like you get at least, and maybe I'm wrong on this, maybe my luck has just been good, it feels like you get at least one Blade Shard, one Jade Shard from the mines, but then the mines reset faster than they do on other maps.
Yeah.
Like I know I was running around on my character, collected all of the Jade Shards I could collect on the map, and then an hour later, and I don't know the exact timer, but I seen them start to pop up again. Whereas in Winterberry farms, which are plentiful and concentrated, making it an easy farm, and you're guaranteed to get, several berries per bush, that made it an easy farm to get lots of magic, and get lots of berries, and you were done with the map, pretty quickly. This feels like a much more balanced approach to to get that currency. It's not overabundant, but it's not in short supply either. It doesn't feel like.
It keeps you playing the game for longer periods of time because you know that they're going to respawn faster. Oh, if I just, I'm done. If I just wait 15 more minutes, I can go back to the bottom of the map and start working my way back up again.
Yeah, and that's the thing. On top of that, you've got the situation where if you are after the currency, you can pretty much just follow the events around. So it's not like a route of a meta that you have to, a route kind of planned meta event around the map that you have to follow, but there's something going on at every single point of the map. And even though there is sort of a vague kind of thing that happens, like you have to defend the village, then you have to kill the boss, and then you have to clear out the white mantle at the end, you're never sort of like bound to stay in anywhere for one kind of period of time, which I actually quite like that they got rid of that participation denial thing that came in with Heart of Thorn in the Heart of Thorns maps. As far as I know, that doesn't actually happen in Lake Doric or any of the new maps. So you can tag a whole bunch of stuff, and then you can run off to. So if you tagged a whole bunch of stuff at Loamhurst, you can then run up to Cider's Haven, and then up to the bit where Norham is at the very top, and you still get all the rewards from it. But I've not really been doing that, because every time I've been going somewhere, I've sort of like, right, I'll just kill all these guys, and then I need to kill the legendary guy, and then on my way up, there's that event where the Jade Shard and the Watch Knight have it out, because there's 3 or 4 of those every time that the thingy starts, and even just watching that is really cool. And again, it's just more loot and more loot and more loot, and it's nice. It's also nice to be in a map where the environment isn't trying to constantly murder you as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's also what I like about this one, is that, you know, I said before that it's kind of like a normal vanilla Guild Wars 2 map, and just shrunken down. And I think the amount it lets you explore really adds to that. Like, there's little nooks and crannies and stuff to explore, but also you're kind of free to move around without getting ganked in like 2 seconds by something that you can't even see.
But at the same time, the White Mantle are really challenging.
Oh,
especially
yeah,
when there's just
like,
tons of them, and event
and the
spawns.
centaur
If you go
bit at
into
the top
the
as well
Fort
is
of
a bit
Enia,
rough.
you just get mobbed.
For me, the White Mantle there'd be a lot more manageable if the Mesmers didn't get a respawn.
That second respawn thing.
Oh, let's not forget the
just...
clerics. If you let the clerics get that heal off, they can be annoying as anything. Got to interrupt that heal.
Yeah. Also, why can clerics block as well? Clerics get like a 4-second block when combat starts. That's ridiculous.
I actually have a couple of points. Number one, since we're talking about creatures, I'm sure that many people, I've seen it on Reddit, but I'm sure most of you have noticed too that some of the Seraph are wielding pole arms on land, spears, and they have a quite nice attack, and that brings up new theories about, for me anyway, warrior elite specialization for the next expansion possibly.
Well, polearm was in the very, very early beta stages of the game, and they did remove it. So if it's a leftover resource,
I mean, it has if they have animations where they spin around, they have knockbacks with the pole arms and everything. It's pretty cool. But to the map and stuff, what I really like about this map, and one of my big championing I can't say the word. One of my big points with Guild Wars 2 that I've always sort of championed for is exploration. And the core game has that in droves, right? Heart of Thorns has it, but it's in a very different way. And this map, because it feels so much more like classic Tyria or classic Kryta, it has that exploration back, right? Some of the other maps have a little bit of exploration, but this one, for example, I was helping some guildies get some of the Vista's mastery points and letters. And I was like, oh, come to the Temple of the Six and go to the north face. Just go north to the rock, and I said, you'll see the entrance. And I'm like, I can't find it. So I would show up and be like, okay, we're standing here, move to your left and pan the camera. And then all of a sudden it's like mountain. And as you pan the camera, there's an entrance right here.
Yeah.
It's so cleverly hidden without actually being hidden. Like if you just came at it from this angle, you'd always see it. But because you're like at the temple or you're approaching from a different perspective, it's like a solid wall, right? It's amazing, and I love that. And the core game has a lot of that. And you find this waterfall area that has these updrafts, and that's not the only one. There's a whole, 7-Bit was talking about all these hidden achievements, and there's a number of them. But the Melandru one, I was playing with Jalanir early on, and we could not figure it out. We tried everything. The girl would spawn, the priestess of Melandru would spawn, and she'd get to the tree and disappear. We tried cheering her on. We'd like slash cheer. We tried crying with her. We tried begging her. We tried everything to get her to move along from the tree. We would clear the area out and make sure there was no creatures. And it didn't occur to us that you have to find a stick in New Loamhurst, light it with special blue fire, and light the torchway so she gets to the end and opens this special room that has and if you are into the lore, especially Guild Wars 1 lore, that special room is a lore bomb because it has the grave markers and gravestones of like old Crichton heroes and stuff. So
really,
yeah, it's just cool and incredible, and there's an ancient chest and whatever. So just a really cool hidden feature. And as a player, if you're exploring the area for the first time, like unless you're there at night, you wouldn't know that an event is necessarily there. But you would see this locked gate, and it's like, how do I get in there? You know.
I like as well the fact that those achievements are hidden, because I think it kind of negates exploration a bit if you're kind of given a reason to look for a thing, you know, like, but when it's just something that, oh, what's this? Something's appeared, and then you kind of follow it along, and then suddenly it pops. It's like genuine exploration. You know, you didn't know that was there, and you found it. But when you're told something is there, and then, you know, so you know something's there, and you have to find it. It's a kind of a different feeling, and it's not a genuine. I don't know. It's not genuine exploration. So I really like the fact that there's a lot of hidden stuff, and a lot that comes from interaction with NPCs as well, like feeding the Quaggan guy. You know, like you only know to do that by talking to him first, and the guy that's trapped on the well. Okay, it's a bit more obvious, you know, that he's hungry because he's screaming at you. But like that kind of thing, you know, I like the interaction with the world, whether it's through exploring the environments or talking to the actual NPCs. It's really refreshing, because a lot of NPCs in Guild Wars are just, you know, warrior or something, you know, townsman, you know. So it's cool that you can actually go up and talk to them and get like immersed in their situation properly. And I don't know, it's great. I was in Heart of Thorns, I wanted maps kind of like that, you know, that were just real, believable. I mean, granted, it was so close to an Elder Dragon, and you know, whatever, it makes sense, but I just really craved that sense of exploration and getting that feeling I had back when playing through vanilla for the first time. And this map's like the first time since Heart of Thorns that I've actually had that.
Well, and people in chat are talking about the peach tree. So
of course,
there's a magic peach tree. What's great about the peach, first of all, the tree itself looks fantastic. There's these lights, these magic lights in the tree, which make it look really great. But what I really love about the peach tree is you get there, and there's a ghost under the tree, and you talk to the ghost. He doesn't actually talk to you. He just kind of smiles, and he points at the spirit of whatever. I forget what it's called.
Harvest spirit, I think.
Yeah, he points at the giant spirit, who then you talk to, who then like picks a peach from the tree and gives it to you. And it doesn't show that happening, but it tells you that, and it's just like that. The imagery there is just like, I don't know, it's a smile-inducing moment, right?
Yeah.
And you would think that the hidden achievements, because we've seen this in current events as well, that those can be problematic for some people. But the map really sort of comes alive with chatter, where people will say, you know, hey, there's this locked gate. What do I do? And people are telling them, like, no, you got to come back at night. And like, so there's communication within the map to tell people. For example, I know that like some people were trying to do the lumber camp, which is, there's a little bit of scaling and difficulty with a couple of the achievements that is problematic, but they were like, hey guys, we're doing this. Come over here right now and do this. Or there's a ghost cat that only appears at night.
Yeah.
And so people
I had to help someone out with the ghost cat.
Yeah, people were like, where's the ghost cat? I know there's a cat here. I've been reading about her. I've been hearing about it. What do I do? And so, you know, yes, they're hidden, but it seems like people are constantly talking, at least right now, people are constantly talking about it in chat. So even though they're hidden, that information is getting spread like way more easily than it normally does.
I think what they've kind of managed to hit on is that people want rewards, you know. They want the play to be rewarding. And what they've kind of done is that they've, with Lake Doric, they've managed to balance or find that sweet point between giving people rewards, but not making them too rewarding, if that makes sense. I always felt that the stuff that you got from the previous 3 maps was kind of like, oh, here, have a ton of berries, or have a ton of experience, and you know, keep getting your champion drops and that. But what they've done is they've actually, or it's something that I've seen, that people will actually go around and complete these events much more readily than they would in Ember Bay or in Bloodstone Fen. I mean, because like some of the events in Bloodstone Fen were just ridiculous. Like the you know, the cleric one where you have to break his shield using bloodstone shards. It's like anyone with any kind of sense will just wait until that fails and then go and kill him when he's a veteran. It's like
right.
Like that's pretty much the only way to do that event if you're on your own. But what they've done here is they've removed that need for kind of serious, not group play, because you still need other people there, but it's the map is much more accessible for people who are playing solo. I can only assume that the events, that when the map starts to die down, when the next patch comes in, or people go back to doing what they usually do, that the events will scale accordingly.
No. Oh, no.
Now, hang on.
You would think that.
Did you trot on the stage server and you ended up with 52 White Mantle to kill on your own in Loamhurst?
Oh god.
Yeah. So one of the things that I really love, and some people will be put off by this. Some people will be put off by this, but I actually like this. Currently, because the map is very populated, it's kind of rare, unless you're playing at off-peak hours, that the White Mantle win a settlement, unless the players let them win, which is a whole other topic. But when the White Mantle attack, it feels like an attack force. Like, there are a lot of them. And if they win, they are everywhere. There are so many that occupy a city, and even if you kill them, they respawn, not instantly, but quickly enough that it feels like a continuing tide is pushing against you. You really have to fight to take it back if there's not many people on a map or in an area, which I like, because we're going to talk about the story. It's very fitting for the setting, and it makes the White Mantle feel like a real army, like a real force to be reckoned with. It's not a couple of White Mantle here and there. There are a lot of them, and the force is constant. And on the reverse part of that, if they control a point, like let's say they control Sadrius Haven, when the Seraph mount an attack back at them, it feels the same way. Like, there's a lot of NPCs that come in there and try and help you. Not enough that you could really solo or low man it necessarily, but there's support there. It feels like an army is fighting an army with the player's help.
Yeah. Do you know what? It actually, now you mention it, it actually feels a lot like the Centaur event chain in Queensdale.
Right.
You know, the one that stops with defending the camps and you push all the way down to rescuing the prisoners. There's an event in there where you end up fighting loads of Centaur in the middle of like a giant cabbage patch. And yeah, it feels quite a bit like that. I mean, whether or not it's partly because of the setting, that it's stuff that we're more familiar with. And I like as someone who's kind of played a human since day one.
Yes.
Like, just the amount of extra lore and stuff that's been put into that, especially, like, we're probably going to talk about it when we go on to talking about the story, but picking up all of the extra letters in Cordicus's manor, and just picking up a letter which is talking about the fall of Falcon Company. And I'm just like, this is from like 3.5-4 years ago.
This entire episode was filled with that kind of hidden, like, back lore about things that, like you said, we've done 3-4 years ago.
Sylvari, you're done.
Sylvari, you've had your time in the sun. You're done. It's the humans' time now. Yes.
Listen, Casimir, we're gonna have a talk when you eventually come back to the story. Clearly, it seems like you know E, and what's up with that?
What's the deal with that, man?
Yeah,
Spill
come
beans.
on. I mean,
yeah. So
I loved it. Letters from
man,
E, Cordicus's letters.
This story, and that's one of the things that I loved the most about this story was, like Alex said, I've played a human and a human noble at that from day one. My main is a human noble, and this story was all about the human nobles and the human personal story. Yeah. And it was like, just phenomenal.
Mr. Damon and all that. It's like, if Mr. Damon does this, just make sure he dies. And it's like, you know.
I mean, just talking to the Queen. So fully moving on to the story here. The first instance, meeting of the ministers. You know, it starts right off with an audience with the Queen. And it's been a while since we've like gone to her throne room and talked to her. So it's like you go there, and I mean, the writing was so good. I mean, even the Queen, she's throwing out quips. You just like to smash things, and
oh my God.
It's just, it's brilliant. I think it was just brilliant. Wonderful, wonderful writing, and like
also, if you did notice that the Queen wasn't wearing shoes.
I did notice that she was
Well,
wearing shoes.
Did you guys? They addressed that actually.
Mm-hmm.
Did you did hear? So when you read the letter, you get a letter and you read the letter. Timmy starts talking to you right away. This is another one of those, like when Aurene first appears, you gotta be ready to listen right away because the story just starts.
I like that.
And she says, you know, and she calls them gossip rags, which I thought was so funny. Like nobody calls a magazine like they just call it a magazine. They don't call it a gossip rag anymore. You know what I mean? It's such like an oldie term. I never hear somebody call like a magazine a gossip rag. Anyway, she's like, in the gossip rag, did you know she doesn't wear shoes? It's like it's this player thing that the players are like, why the hell doesn't she wear shoes? Right? And ArenaNet puts a nod in there towards it, and I love that. Like
she's not wearing shoes. Oh my god.
Yeah, don't look at her feet though. Don't look
at her feet. It's rude.
Now you're never going to be able to unsee that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the beginning bit of the story was pretty cool, and the I like this. This is so embarrassing, but there's so much of this that took me ages to figure out because it was on a Wednesday night I was playing, and you know the bit where you have to go to the golem and try and make him not break.
Yeah.
And I was there, and I was just like pushing random buttons trying to fix it.
Figure out.
I was like, what the hell am I supposed to do?
I'm not a
here?
scientist. I can't figure this
like-
out. You're
like,
sitting there
I'm not-
doing the Asura's job for him, and it even says
Yeah,
that.
I was
You're like,
like-
you're welcome for doing your job for you.
And I was like, I'm not supposed to be here and read tooltips. It's ridiculous.
Fantastic. Like, there's so first of all, was that Jennifer Hale's voice still?
I think so.
I think so, yeah.
The Queen's voice seemed a little different to me, like sharper and clearer. Maybe it's just maybe it's
to
a
be
different
fair,
audio
though,
mix
when
or something.
The
When was
last,
the last time
will
she
have
voiced the
recorded
character, yeah.
voice for the
Yeah, I
Queen,
guess
you know,
it's been a while since I've
even
listened to Jenna
to me,
talk.
Logan sounded. Obviously, Logan comes in later, but even his voice sounded very slightly off, like he was still trying to get into the character again after.
What?
Like, don't get me wrong, I thought it was terrific. Like the Queen's talking, and I'm like, man, I don't know if it's the same actress, but that voice is so. It was just so well, like clear. And
It was
crisp
very
and-
yeah, it was very high quality. I noticed that too. Like just you could hear the little undertones in her voice, and it really accentuated the talent of the actors, all of the voice acting. Canuck, because he's got that kind of like, undertone, like the roughness, and Logan's got the extremely deep voice, and that all came through in this episode. So the sound quality was very, very sharp and clear and good, and it gets you immersed even more because, like, Queen Jenna sounds regal, and Logan sounds, like he is the Seraph Guard, and it gives you more of a connection to these characters, and I just felt like I was here when they talked. I paid attention. I was like, yes, okay, the Queen is speaking to me.
Yeah, you're walking through the garden, and you're like, oh, you missed a weed. Oh, that's not a weed. There's this whole explanation.
And that was
It's
so
just
cool. Like they didn't need to put that in there
Yeah.
at all, but like it's just an extra bit of lore. Like now we know something about the flora.
And they came back and mentioned it in
it was cool.
in a way that was, in the dialogue that made sense at the end of not only that, but at the very end of the last story instance, they brought it back again, and Countess Anise is impressed with your knowledge of the Queen, and it was just so cool. A+ writing in this episode.
Yeah,
I thought.
the writing's so good. The voice acting has been exceptional.
Acting is phenomenal.
Even kind of the B grade characters,
Yeah.
like even like
Minister
Valette
Estelle.
and
Valette
the other
was off for
ministers.
me, but
Yeah.
well,
And to
Sounded
me it was
weird.
all right.
she was a little loud and a little like I felt like she should have been more emotional.
Like
and she was just trying
overacting.
to be loud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's what I felt. Valette took me out of it a little bit. I think she could have been better, but it was still fine. The audio was still very high quality. I just thought maybe maybe I was expecting a different voice out of her.
Yeah, but yeah. Also, can we talk about the fact that once again, Queen Jenna does nothing until somebody else tells her to, or she finds some long lost gumption to actually take action on things and produce a feedback bubble the size of Divinity's Reach.
Queen Jenna's
know,
OP, man. She
Yeah,
is
but
OP.
I know what you mean though. It did feel a little bit like kind of like the plot
like-
just doing it for plot
It's like,
reasons.
oh, this thing. It's
I can do
sort of
this.
Like Casmi's instant recharge time warp in Dragon's Reach Part 1. And
I do know what you mean. It would have been cool to see maybe all these mesmers, you know, from Divinity's Reach all at the same time doing it to make a
That
dragon.
would have been
Yeah.
cool. What
As
I
opposed
like,
to I'm the queen and we don't want to destroy the human capital because it's too close to a starting zone, so we're just gonna lore, you know, just plot.
yeah, what I
Felt
liked
a bit-
about it was because ever since the beginning of the game, we've been hearing, Queen Jenna is this extremely powerful mesmer. She's extremely powerful. I've never really felt that. I've never seen that. I'm like, is she? Okay, I'll take your word for it.
Yeah.
In the first instance, they showed you how powerful she is. And I liked
bit where she
that
picks
because
the
it's like,
guys off was so
finally,
cool.
I believe it. Yes, you and you, Edge of Destiny.
Yeah.
Okay.
Listen,
the last
so
5 minutes of
this
that book.
yeah, absolutely that as well. But this book sets a particular tone that the game has always sort of betrayed itself on. Number one, the book lets you know that the queen doesn't like it. It almost seems like she doesn't like to fight back with her own powers unless she has to. So in the book, spoilers, it's been out forever, but spoilers, the big part of contention is that she calls Logan. She needs her champion. She's in danger. So she calls her champion back, and Logan's like, see ya, guys. Gotta go see a girl about a car. I gotta get out of here, bye. And
then-
Whitlock's just like, dude, what the fuck? What you doing? Like, come on, man. There's a dragon coming. What are you doing?
And then
Logan's
just
like, bye.
just as he arrives at Ebonhawk, guess who pulls a finger out of her ass?
Yeah, she's just like,
fine. She's just
like, good job, Logan. Oh, look, everybody.
And you know-
Jormag's here. Follow him over the hill. She
Yeah, but
creates
like-
a freaking Jormag that all the Mians believe, his children, Jormag's children believe Papa Jormag is going over the hills, and they're all going to follow him away. Why did you
that's
need
what's-
Logan? You didn't need him. And
So
it's
the book,
same
yeah, but
thing in the
you're
story.
totally right though. Like the book has that example there of like it already. I think that's why that's obviously where all of these like Logan, we hate the Queen. Logan was betrayed. Kind of, he was controlled or something. All those theories come from. But
Kralkatorrik.
again,
I always call
in
him
this
Jormag. I don't know
in
why.
this episode, you see her do that giant bubble, and it's like it just solidifies this idea that like why did she call on Logan in the first place? Like what was he supposed to really do there? Like maybe she's working with the dragons, or there's something that made she wanted that plan to kill Kralkatorrik to fail for some reason or something.
Yeah,
and
it's Kralkatorrik, not Jormag. I don't know why I call him Jormag all the time. I always do that.
It just made me. I don't know. It just seems weird, and I don't know. Maybe they're going somewhere with it, and it's like the lore from the book, and then and now it's actually all coming together, and they're gonna take a direction with the Queen.
Well, and so
I don't know.
that's
It just made her character feel a bit less believable because she was just kind of doing stuff for plot.
It's interesting because she's a super powerful mesmer. That the point of all that is she is super strong, obviously, right? She's like, oh, cannonballs? I don't think so. Super bubble. And then she's like, hey, we got to get to the throne room, but hold on, we got to protect the ministers. Super giant barrier of reflection on both sides. It
that
just
she
takes a
doesn't have to
couple of-
stay there to maintain. She just boop,
Right.
there we go.
Yeah,
It just takes a
no
couple of
bother.
minutes.
No cooldown. No cooldown.
And then she gets confronted, and Estelle's like, ha 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 ha, I'm going to destroy you. And she's like, how about you? Dead, dead, dead. Just finger of death. Everybody is dead.
That is a very high level
What?
spell. That's like that's like a 9th level spell, isn't it, or something? That's necromancy as well, technically.
Ooh.
So
I mean,
It's
don't get
just
me wrong.
straight
It
up.
was amazing because she is a badass. I mean, every Mesmer in the game is better than the player character Mesmer at this point.
Yeah.
Portals
Yeah.
that go across the world and whatever.
Yeah.
But she is a literal, she is a badass when push comes to shove. And if you can get her mad enough and engage her in combat, you're screwed. I mean, I don't know what you're gonna do really, because
I want to know the story stuff as well. Someone, Obi says as well, like, why didn't she give Estelle a finger? So, she probably could have just killed her instantly as well, like she did the minions of her.
Yeah.
But
It's
we're
because
left to
we needed
obviously
some- we
from a
needed
game
something to do.
design point of view, you need to fight a boss, right? That's
Right.
understandable.
Yeah.
But surely there has to be a reason as to why she would risk Logan, who's like half naked and barely walking,
Yeah.
and risk me and him just
I love
because
it.
she can't be bothered snapping her fingers at this other
Yeah.
chick. Like, it just seems a bit weak. I don't know. Maybe there's a reason. Maybe it's redundant and I'm focusing too
Yeah.
much on details.
So-
but like,
Yeah. So some people in chat are asking about why Jenna has this much power. So let's go all the way back to the time of King Doric, and Doric was sacrificed on the old Bloodstone, and the kind of theory or lore behind it is that every descendant of Doric has the ability to be an exceptionally powerful magical user. Now, Jenna comes down the Sadrin line of ascension, rather. So she is a direct blood relative to Doric, even though it's all the way back, and that's probably where she gets a lot of her power from. And yeah, again, it's all to do with how Doric's relationship with magic, way back when humans were first given magic and Abaddon got involved, which we might touch on it in a bit.
That bloodstone. It all comes back to
Yeah.
that bloodstone.
It all comes back to the Bloodstone, and that Bloodstone is some powerful crack, I tell you.
And now
they
that
just
we've
can't get enough of it.
now that we've I guess defeated in Lake Doric the that half of the White Mantle that went with Caudicus rather than the fake Lazarus, apparently, which we'll get to later.
oh my god, the lore in this episode is so good. So much stuff.
There's all these bloodstones. Just I mean, you go into Fort Avenia and there's just buckets and buckets of bloodstones. And now we've
Yeah.
cleared Caudicus out of his manor, and there's just buckets and buckets of bloodstones in there. Like there's the bloodstone spirits, as we saw, are all over Lake Doric. Like they've exploded and they're appearing in the world. Like there's, I mean, season 2 was all about the ley line energy. Now it is like shifted
all
to
about
the
the Bloodstone
Yeah, it's all
stuff.
bloodstone
energy.
stuff.
I love too how, and it made me cringe because I'm like, how dare you, right? But you're walking out of the throne room and she's just like, oh, you just smash stuff. Like,
Yeah, I thought that was a
okay,
bit,
we are
like-
not collectively Bram, okay? We are
Yeah,
more
I-
eloquent
We killed
than
2
that.
dragons. Two
Come
dragons.
on, like,
Count them.
we've used a high-tech laser gun to kill one, and we went into the mind of the other one, for God's sakes. Well, yeah, sure, we just smash stuff. That's all we do. We're not, we don't have elegant solutions. We didn't create the pact or anything. Screw it. We just smash everything. We're all just Bram. How dare you,
Bram.
Queen Jenna? And the
I didn't even
commander's
think
just
about
like,
that.
oh, Queen
Oh,
Jenna, you're
Jenna.
so funny. I'm like, no, I'm mad, damn it. You insulted my honor.
Yeah. But what was? Do you know what? I actually really enjoyed that that bit where you infiltrate Fort Avenia, and you have to like kind of sneak around and kind of like jump here and there and poison stuff. And I'm fairly sure like at least one of those skills is from that bandit encampment in Brisbane Wildlands where you have to poison stuff and
Yes.
steal things.
Oh
Yes.
yeah,
Yes, it is.
aye. Yeah,
But
I remember
I just thought it was just kind of cool, and it was kind of punishing as well. Actually,
Mhm.
like there was, well, it wasn't exactly hard. I mean, there wasn't any room for error, and
As long as you were careful, it is fine. If you just go in and start clicking stuff, then you're gonna get caught.
yeah,
If you
it was,
actually
but
read
it's the first good
skills.
example of like stealth gameplay. Well, season 2 had it as well, where remember with the echoes of the past or whatever.
Mhm.
That was
Yeah.
pretty well done, as well. But I think the game's tried to do kind of stealth stuff before, and it's never been that. It feels a bit clunky. This was really well like designed, and if any mistake that you made was your fault, because the mechanics were just laid out there simply for you. That was like my favorite part in the new map for sure.
I just loved how Lake Doric had such a connection to the story, like in the in-between parts there where you're in Lake Doric and you're doing the little missions for Logan, scouting, and then you go into Fort Avenia, and then you literally just go around the map and smash things. I felt part of the story, because it was a direct, it's the White Mantle coming for Divinity's Reach. You are between them, and you are helping to stop the White Mantle attack. And I felt a part of it. You go back to the war tent where Logan is, and there's a map laid out on the table, and he shows you the map, and I just felt it was very, very cinema-like to me. I felt like I was the soldier, and I was going out, and I felt connected to the story and the map. I felt like in the previous episodes, I felt like the story was just kind of plopped on top of the map, and it was like, okay, sure, I can okay, you just kind of put me in this map. Whereas here, I felt a part of it. I felt like a part of what was going on in the map. The
first 3 episodes, well, after I played the last episode, I was really burnt out. I was really tired of that. You do the intro instance, and then you're thrown in this new map, and you basically just go around, do the hearts, and then there's like a cliffhanger ending instance. And it just like a really weak template.
Right.
And I was really worried that this episode was and the rest of the season was going to be the same thing over and over again. But this is the first time properly where the open world parts of the story felt actually connected and not just kind of rammed in to gate you, to make it last longer or whatever. The fact that it wasn't explicitly just saying go do this heart, it was actually kind of like just check in with this area, and you could do stuff if you wanted, and just you're there, and then stuff's going on, so you just kind of join in and do it, rather than literally just being like, go here and do this heart quest, so it takes you half an hour longer than if we just left that out. And it felt again in the other episodes a bit like they were like, oh, if we make them do hearts, that means we don't have to write much more story. We don't have to voice stuff, we don't have to do an instance and design it and blah blah blah. We can just say make them do the hearts, and that will last the same amount of time. This one actually felt a bit more like the two were connected, like we were saying. You were part of the world, and the story was part of the map as well, not just kind of two separate things. Right. One was kind of not as good as it should have been. So that was probably my favorite part of this episode, was the fact that it finally felt like everything, the map was actual content related to the story. It just was really good.
What about the final instance though? Because
hold on before we jump into that, because that's like the meat of the episode, right? We go back to the Queen's throne room.
Oh god, of course we do, don't we? Yeah.
And
about that.
So again, going back to the book Edge of Destiny, when you read the letters between Queen Jenna and Logan, now of course Logan is a lovesick teenager puppy dog, and this is the love of his life, and he can't live without her. He's got that overbearing attitude where everybody's just like, oh my god, it's sickening. Where Queen Jenna, part of the problem is she reciprocates in her letters some of that fondness for Logan, and I think he reads like way too much into that. But there is a genuine, like in the book anyway, she genuinely seems to have this fondness for her champion. She's a little more than just a champion to her. Do you know what I mean? There is some sort of slight attraction or fondness there. And in the game, you never get that, right? In the game, it's always Logan is her little lapdog. Everybody knows it. And the queen is just like, I'm a queen. I can't be seen with it, you commoner piece of dirt. Anyway. And she gets even more brutal in this episode, where she just she continues to reject his affection. Harshly. And I don't remember the exact lines and stuff, but you talk to her and it's like, you are such a mean, not a nice person to him, But Logan, finally, the clouds cleared, and he's like, look, I'm moving on. I'm done, I've had enough.
I'm becoming the pact. He's taking our job, by the way. So
we turned it down.
No, but when Traherne bought it, that should have been our job. But instead of just going, oh, maybe the second in command should be in charge, it wasn't that. It was, now the Pact Marshal's dead, who should we find to replace it? And we're stood there over the corpse of a dead Elder Dragon going, yo, what about this business? And they're like, yeah, you're all right, but What about somebody else who's done
Well,
more
no,
for
they asked,
Tyrion?
They
than
asked
you?
we
us.
turned it down because they asked
They-
us in
they said we-
episode 2, was it? Or 1?
Yeah,
I
I think it was episode 2. no,
and we turned
maybe
it down
1.
because it's just like sitting around in an office kind of
Yeah.
work. Right, it's office
Like
work.
we have to be
don't
out there
want-
killing dragons.
We want field work.
What's really interesting
Trahan was
too,
out there killing Well, he tried to be out there
Well,
killing dragons.
Yeah, but
and
look
kinda
where
followed
that
us
got.
job of it.
Okay, you can understand
Yeah.
why they want to keep people in an office now after full debacle.
Well, well, some of
The
us. are
company
dragon
will have been
minions.
sued for that, dude.
But what's interesting about Logan, his character is actually starting to get
Evolve.
evolved. Right,
Oh
he's
my
he's
God.
actually evolved. He's moving on from the queen. He's taking a new job. He's moving to a new city. He's getting over the whole relationship thing, right?
But it wasn't hard. I just real quick. I like that it wasn't harsh. He wasn't like, you know what, I'm done with her. It was very subtle. He's like, I've kind of accepted this. I don't remember the exact dialogue, but it
Yeah,
wasn't.
but the queen was a bit more.
It
She was like, oh, finally. he's,
she
like, come to
specifically
realize.
said, yes, friend zone. He's a good friend or whatever,
Right.
which is
And
what she's
finally
always
he's
said.
realized
That's what
that.
she's always
Yeah.
said. So, but then you immediately go and talk to Logan, and he's like, I should move on. He didn't say like screw her.
He didn't seem happy about it.
No,
Like,
no,
it
he
was
wasn't
never
happy.
seen
Well,
That's
you
been
know.
such a big part of his character and a big part of his life. For him to just abandon that would have been very, very harsh. So, I like the fact that it was subtle.
But doesn't in Edge of Destiny isn't it implied that she fancies his brother or something?
No.
His brother was in the guard, wasn't he?
His brother was a seraph before Logan
Yeah.
was. He was very proper. He was a very proper
I
seraph
can't remember.
warrior. Now, he was very protective of the queen, but not in a romantic way. He was like
was just a
honor
loyal-
bound.
Yeah.
He was an honorable soldier. Where Logan is not so much about honor, he's about I
Being a
love
little
her,
bitch.
I have to protect her. Right?
Feeling.
I will do anything she asks me. But what's interesting is your character says, "But what about the queen? Isn't she gonna miss you?" And he's like,
yeah, just
"She'll
like
be
poking the
just
wound.
fine."
She'll be, yeah, that was it. She'll be fine.
But the way he delivers a line, she'll be just fine. There's that sigh in
Yeah,
there, there's
she
that
never
breaking
needed
sigh,
me.
But what's really great is Logan even tells you that his mind is fine, like he's of
Yeah,
sound
see,
mind,
that's the whole thing.
but
yeah.
his body doesn't feel the same. So the blighting pod has somehow changed his body.
Yeah.
Not necessarily that he feels weaker, but there's a deeper story there that we haven't heard the last of yet.
Mordrum.
Mm.
The Elder
And-
Dragon.
And the letter from E says there's like a cloaked seraph standing
Yeah.
there. The letter from E that's next to him says,
Don't let
protect
him
Logan. Don't let him die. His
let
role
him
is
see
not complete, which is
Yeah.
interesting. Which might have you to believe that as far as human politics go, E is sort of like the glint of the humans
Mhm.
in a way. Not so much the prophecies and stuff, but E seems to have their own story drawn out on how these pieces are all going to move and work.
Yeah.
And Logan has a critical role to play in E's plan, whatever that is. And so we're not done with him yet. Keep him alive. He's still important. We don't know why. We don't
But
know
also,
what that's
don't let
all
him.
about.
That was another part though. It was like, don't let him see you either.
Right.
you know,
Exactly.
What's
So-
that about? Like, who are these? And you can see them.
Stalking
They're
Logan.
next, standing behind Logan, like in permanent stealth. And you're like, who's that? What's going
Hmm.
on?
So I really loved hearing about Logan, that he's developed, he's moving on, he's taking a new job. Yes, it's a desk job, but his body doesn't feel quite right. Is he part Mordrum somewhere? Is Mordremoth not really, Jahern says there's a seed of Mordremoth in me. You must kill me to kill the dragon.
Hmm.
Is Mordremoth really dead?
We know
How
that
did it
he can
affect
possess
Zojah?
dead things. So, like, if Logan
Yeah,
never
how the
dies,
hell's
if
Zojah?
Logan dies, could he turn into like another Mordrum?
We'll find out how Zodra is when Felicia Day has a free spot in her schedule. I
Or a
think.
dry
Yeah.
spell and has to charge
Yeah.
less money.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. The blighting pot has changed his body physically somehow. We don't know how yet.
Mm,
So
Yeah, that was
It's
interesting.
Very
turning
cool.
into a plant.
yeah. But yeah, so
he's half vegan. He's half vegan now, guys.
so, but you did have Logan there on the battlefield as well, kind of like directing things when you were down
Right.
Yeah.
It was good to see him actually playing a part.
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah,
when
rather
I
than-
wasn't sure if he was even going to be in it, honestly.
I'm so happy
the-
with all the Logan in this
The
episode.
voice actor stuff.
Yeah.
But then it was so good to see that he wasn't just there to turn up at that fight to protect the queen and then, oh, I passed out. I'm so
Yeah.
tired.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
just as like,
yeah.
oh, he was there, guys. He tried, but he's just sick. You know, that's why he's not in this episode very much. But no, he actually played proper parts in it.
Yeah.
You know, he was the kind of the guy you spoke to in between everything, and it was good to see him.
Are you happy that they asked him to be the leader of the pact?
No.
Yeah.
But nice.
I mean,
Alex
honestly,
hates
yeah.
it, but I actually like it.
Yeah, I think it's
I
it's
liked
decent.
it.
I mean, who else would they ask?
Um,
You know?
Good question.
any
I love
Keith,
how he turns us
Jesus
down.
Christ, I'd rather have
Trust
Keith in
Keith.
shit.
We'll never
Nah,
trust
look,
Keith
nah,
again.
Keith
can't be
is
trusted.
the lady at the
Rillock's
grocery
too rash.
store.
Logan
who
is the perfect person for it.
Keith is now the lady at the grocery store inspecting eggs for their purity. Okay, she,
Hang on, what?
Fired, dude.
Why not Almara Soulkeeper? Because
well, she
essentially-
keeps pushing it off. She don't want to do it. She
She obviously
thing
doesn't
is-
want to do it.
But the thing is, we still have to check with her anyway before we make any kind of decision regarding the pact. So she might as well. And like,
Maybe she's just old. She's getting old. She wants to hang out and just relax.
Well, but she's in charge of the vigil, right? And
Yeah,
so
exactly.
the
And she
idea
also has-
of the pact is that none of the order leaders can be the leader of the pact because they would just favor their order.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Speaking of, there seemed to be some unrest in the orders in this episode a little bit.
yeah.
Kind of down talking each other a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, Order of Whispers represent you all.
Vigil.
The Whisper's way.
Priory wasn't really involved, which I
Yeah,
guess
screw
makes
the
sense.
Priory. They're boring nerds anyway. So.
Nerds. Oh no, except Siren. Poor Siren.
There was in that last instance, or in the beginning of the last instance, she said we can do it the. Oh no, that was the Whisper's way, not the. She meant. I think she mentioned the Priory. She mentioned it at some point.
It's
Th-
vigil
this-
or whispers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
the first,
the Whispers
but-
way
Okay.
is sneaking past them,
Yeah.
which is boring. And
I tried to sneak past him and I
the
failed.
actual.
It
Yeah,
depends
and
what
then-
class you're playing. If you're a thief, it's just whatever.
Mm.
Yeah. But yeah, there's an achievement for killing them both, and there's an achievement for sneaking past. And
Mhm.
do you know what? I really loved this final instance because all of those years of doing your CM runs for your dungeon tokens, and you
They finally paid off, dude.
yeah, and you start at the and you start at the bit where you go to Diagro after you sneak through the cave. So you know, and you can see those doors from the other side of Lake Doric as well. When we were running around, we're like, hey, are these the doors that we go to every time we get to the end of when you get to the end of CM 1 and 3, and it was, and you sneak through there, and it's great. And if you notice, there's before you fight either Frost or the central bad guy at the end of the paths, there's the 3 bandit snipers there. Now they're dead when they're on the floor when you go in as well, but they're actually dressed as White Mantle this time.
It's cool.
And just like we knew it from the start.
Yeah, all the little references as well to doing that. You know, when you get to like the barn area and it's like, who the hell blew a hole in this wall? And you're
That was
like,
me.
"Oh, that was me, dude.
That was
Sorry."
me.
It's so cool. One of the bigger things I liked about this final instance as well were all of the class references.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
found 3.
Yeah,
Three
so
of them,
if you're a
yeah.
thief, there's a door you can lockpick.
What?
If you're
Ooh.
not a thief,
Four
she
then.
picks
Really?
it for you. Yeah, but
I didn't know that.
if you're a thief,
Oh,
you
I-
can lockpick it.
I totally missed the thief one. Okay,
The
that's cool.
Ranger, you can tame the pet of the
Yep.
the kind of
Mhm.
guy
Yeah,
that has
and
the
you
dog.
can take over the turrets.
You can take over the
And
turrets.
The Necro, you can take control of skeletons, man. That's so
oh,
cool, dude.
really?
Yeah,
Oh,
skeletons
that's
is fun. You
awesome.
can turn them on your side.
First
It's
of
so
all,
cool.
I love that skeleton guy. I forget who I was talking
cool
with,
as
but
hell.
you know, necromancers don't summon skeletons anymore. I don't know when we got away from that, but not just Guild Wars 2, but like almost any game. Like
Yeah.
the necromancers, they just don't summon skeletons anymore. That was such like a classic RPG
Mhm.
thing to summon
Yeah.
a skeleton. So when this guy started spitting skeletons out at me, I was like, ah, skeletons, yes, kill everything. He had a really cool green aura effect as well, which I could definitely see as an infusion at some point in the game. But I love the skeleton guy. He
like just little little bits like that. Just, I mean, they're not like huge things, but they're just little bits of flavor that you can take in and just go, oh well, I run DPS Fresh Air Tempest. It's like, yeah, but you can't tame a friggin' dog, can you, mate?
Yeah, it was just neat. Like, yeah. I don't know. I think they've been building on this since Heart of Thorns when they gave our player characters a proper voice in the open world and stuff. And it feels like now more and more your character feels like an actual person in the world, and every bit of story that we seem to get added to the game just helps improve on that. And hopefully we see more little references to our class and stuff like that in future episodes, because it was just so great. Cool.
So much little attention to detail. The bringing back of like the ferocity or charm or or dignity.
Do you know what the really weird thing was? When I was playing this with the guys that I played through the story with when it comes out, we saw that when we were talking to it's the ministers in the first instance, isn't it? And it just felt so kind of weird that was kind of there, because when they rejigged the hero panel, they actually took that off, and even though it's still a part of character creation and it's still in the original kind of core game dialogue choices, it just doesn't do anything.
Yeah, and even if it's a nice little flavor thing.
I understand. It was a good way to add a bit of depth. It's like adding like a dialogue option, right? So you can go a slightly different route. It probably doesn't change anything.
No,
but no, it doesn't actually. So you can talk to Minister Wee and his wife in the first instance, and one of the dialogues is you can be dignified or you can be ferocious.
We can give them crap for their traitorous
ferocious
daughter,
is like, you say something about their daughter and something about traitors or something. You're like, you can be ferocious and be like your daughter, or you can be dignified and be like, oh, that's such a shame. I'm so sorry your daughter turned. You can be nice or you can be mean to them, and the outcome is the same. But it's a flavor.
You get to play with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I totally played that one twice because I wanted to know what happens if I just accuse them of being traitors like their daughter.
Helps a little with the headcanon and getting into the roleplay of your own character, because you don't get to choose a lot what your own character says. So just that little tiny bit is nice. You're not being dignified if you're a Norn. And if I'm a human noble, I don't have to be like, tell me, or I'll rip your head off.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it was great. By the way, just real quick, I loved Lord Farron in this episode. Just him bringing him back from the jungle.
That was ridiculous. Really good.
If you wander around after you've completed the instance, I mean, it might even be there before you finish the instance.
It is before too, yeah.
But you walk into this room where this white mantle Mesmer is kind of giving herself a lap dance from an illusory low Farron.
Yeah.
In his Tarzan panties.
In his Tarzan pants, and we went in and was like, the hell is and
why is Farron here? And then
because at first we thought he was like a prisoner with the other people, and then
I'm rich,
suddenly
I'm rich,
and then suddenly realized it was just him in there. And this white mantle lady was enjoying herself far too much.
Come on, we've not all imagined that before.
Like
Lord Farron, yeah.
I've got a Lord Farron love pillow downstairs. I love big 5 foot.
I love that you can go in pretty much every single room in that final instance.
And there's 2 different ways to do it as well, because I played it again, and when you're right outside, and you get the option to use your foot key and kick the door down, or you can get her to pick the lock. If you pick the lock, all the doors are closed, and all of those enemies that attack you stay inside the room, so you can go in and out of as many rooms as you like. And I just thought it was another neat little
It was
Wait to
great.
kill
Yeah,
monsters.
that's what I
What's-
chose the first time.
I would say if you kick the door open, they all just bum rush you.
They all
Yeah,
run
'cause
out.
they hear
'cause
you
They hear you kick the door.
Kick the door open,
That's-
so they come.
That's very nice of them to stack.
It's just a nice
isn't
little
it?
touch.
It was great. There was so many little details like that that just added to the immersion. It added you had choice, even if it was something like whether to open an extra door or not. It was just, it made it so much a little bit less linear, and it gave you, you know, that illusion of choice, and it was just great. There were so many little details. It was wonderful. Loved it.
The-
Oh, we didn't mention as well, when we're back in the throne room, Demi turns up. And we've not seen
Yes.
her in a
Yes,
while.
yeah.
Honestly, I could not give two hoots about Demi. I just
Agreed.
thought that
She,
Of course
in
you
this
didn't.
episode, Demi was honestly just like a Belinda 2.0. I know she
Yeah.
has some
I
kind of
agree.
place in the, more
No, she
depth
was
in the
there to
world
die.
than Belinda did, but
You
there
guys
was
are so
no
mean.
It was
emotional
appropriate
attachment between the
though,
audience.
because we're bringing down
for sure.
Codicus, you know, and she's kind of
Yeah.
that, you know, she was such a big
But
part
it
of that
just-
chapter in the personal story, and it's kind of like a loose end tying up. And at first I was kind of disappointed that she was the death in this episode, because I truly was expecting Jenna or Logan, like a bigger character death. So at first I was very disappointed that it was a quote unquote smaller character death. But
I love it.
when I went back and thought about it, about how this was about the Beetlestone Manor and that family and Codicus, it made more sense.
It makes sense. It just, I don't, again, it was another death that I hope ArenaNet weren't expecting to actually emotionally affect anyone. Because it just,
Yeah.
Well,
there was
a
no
little bit.
setup.
A little
Not,
bit.
not enough.
I
Not enough.
didn't.
No.
More than Linda, but not on the scale of like Air.
So what I really like
no,
about
no,
Demi,
of course not.
Demi, I keep calling her Demi. Demi, the really thing the thing I really liked about Demi that always bothered me with the core game is in the core game, if you play the right path, you save her and you deliver her to the Whisperers. She has important information to share with them, and you never find out. It doesn't matter how important you are in the Whisperers; they never tell you what Demi shares. Well, in this episode, you find out what she shares. Apparently, she shares very little because she doesn't know nearly enough. But she knows a little bit to confirm the Whisper's suspicion about her father.
Yeah.
And what's really great is with her character is even though she didn't know a whole lot, it does answer that question for the players who played that story. What did she actually know? What did she actually share? She gives tons of little lore tidbits about when she lived with her father before she escaped. She would come down to these tunnels that she wasn't really supposed to be in, and she would see him stockpiling weapons and bandits and thieves that just didn't belong around the manor, and all colluding with the White Mantle. And so that part was interesting. The fact that she dies, sure, her death doesn't have a huge impact. I do like that Codicus just like shoots his own daughter because why not?
It does help
Yeah.
solidify how insane he is, and
Right. And
What
you
was-
find out we
Makes
always
killing
had
him that much sweeter.
speculated what happened to her mother, but you get
She
an
was-
ending concrete proof that
Yeah.
he did have her killed and
She was turned
whatever.
into fine paste.
Yeah, and then when she actually dies, there is that sweet moment at the very end when she dies where she calls out for Tybalt. I can see Tybalt.
Aw,
Tybalt,
yeah, that was.
he's
I can
come
see
back.
that's my
He
Tybalt
found
or
me.
whatever.
Yeah, that was.
Can we just address the use of the word "daddy" during the fight? Because that was some weird Oedipal
This
shit
okay,
right
right.
there.
First
That
of all,
was
I just want to.
oh, that
I want to
was
say
weird.
this whole section was where the patch fell apart for me, and
Yeah.
it primarily comes from the cutscenes, which the two cutscenes we got in this patch I felt were both awful. Both in terms of the bitrate stuff was horrible. It really compressed. It looked really off-putting. The animation is better than it's been, but I still
like the
think it's a
animation.
bit overdone. The facial expressions are like
I like
just
it.
caricature. It's like watching a cartoon. And the music, the audio, and all of these were terrible. The first one, especially with the attack, it was just, there was no, like, hardly any sound effects there, and the music itself just sounded really bad. I don't know, like, that's my problems with it, or just this kind of, it just felt a bit cheesy. I think it would have been better had it just been done in dialogue in engine.
Yeah.
Honestly,
It's
it really
interesting
sucked. I
because-
played the first part up to the attack, and I was so involved, like I was so immersed and really into it, and was like, oh my god. And then when the cutscene happened, it just snapped me straight out of it. And the same thing happened with Codicus. And it just felt a bit too cartoony. It just felt really cartoony. And it just, I was so involved in all these lore threads and this whole thing, and really emotionally attached to everything, and then it just, I don't know, it just felt really bad. And again, this evil, I'm an evil man, I'm Codicus, kind of, again, it just like a caricature, really. It just felt a bit forced. I know he's a bad dude, but the kind of language he used and some of the lines, and then the big mutant thing, it just felt really ridiculous to me, honestly. It sucked me straight away. Yeah, it was like out of a machinima, exactly. It was like a Valve, you know, like the kind of animations.
Wizard Hattie.
I will say this. So Codicus is like, sure, he's this big bad villain and to, you know, fight this big villain, but he's like the B villain. He's not the mastermind. He doesn't feel like the mastermind of everything. He feels like the sidekick of the mastermind almost, right? At least to me. What I do think, and some players probably wouldn't have liked this, but I feel like when he escapes through the fireplace, that's where it should have ended for him.
Agreed.
He should have just gone through the fireplace, and Codicus escapes us again, and then the next time we meet him, it's in that room or it's in some place, and we kill him then.
Yeah.
I don't think it should have resolved there.
I don't think it should have resolved right away. I think that he escapes into the fireplace, and then Valette has to help us track him down because she knows whatever, which she does do, but she does it right away, and we just go and
I wasn't expecting her to do it right away, and I was glad that she did, because I was like, oh cool, the story's longer than I expected. But sure, I think his arc, his whole thing there, should have really stopped there, whether it was paused for another episode or he dies there at that point. I think the whole second area, people have complaints about the boss fights. I honestly didn't mind it. I'm not talking about that really. I'm just the setting with the faces, and did he make that room for himself, or is it just to trick us and confuse us? And what was the point in that whole riddle thing? Like, who's that riddle for? Intruders or what? And then the mutant fight thing just felt a bit dumb too, and the dialogue, everything he was saying, it ruined his character for me. Imagine he had shot Demi, and then it kind of snapped him out of his craze, and then he realized what he had done, and he killed himself or something. You know, that would have been like really a lot more mature and a lot more dark, but it would have made his character a bit more interesting rather than, oh, he's a crazy Bloodstone mutant. It just annoyed me. Like, I loved this episode, but those bits really, it fell short there for me.
I mean, yeah, the final part, the room design itself was actually fantastic. Like the way that the faces work, and like having the riddles in there was cool. And what's kind of cool to realize is that room has actually been in there for years.
I recognized it immediately.
So if you what you can do is you can break out of Codicus Manor explorable, and you can get there eventually, and you can find a little ceiling cat hidden in.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the ceiling cat.
Hidden in one of the floors. So it's kind of cool to think that they've actually been thinking about, you know, having Codicus be a proper villain at some point, and especially if you have post processing on, it gets really, really weird and some really cool visual effects in there. But for me, I didn't necessarily have a problem with Codicus going all balls out mutant, because I was just thinking, I was thinking about this, and since Lazarus came back, which I'm sure we're going to have a good old discussion about in a second, he's been kind of relegated to second best in the White Mantle, and so if he started to load up on Bloodstone, and you know, we've seen what it's done to you know, other members of the White Mantle.
Well, and there's journal entries that talk about Matthias and the effects, and so Codicus. It's interesting because Bloodstone must be one hell of a drug, because they know the effect. They know sort of the end results, that they sort of, yes, they get this amazing power, right? But you lose yourself. You lose control of your mind, and it's dangerous, right? Yes, you're powerful, but at what personal cost to you? You're no longer yourself. You become this raging mutant, bloodstone
drugs,
Hulk,
kids.
basically. You know. Yeah.
I feel like if they'd made him just kind of lose his personality rather than kind of exaggerating it, like in a cartoony way, I think it would have felt a lot better. I don't know. It just reminded me of like, just like a bad zombie movie always ends with like a big mutant guy. You know, a bad superhero movie always ends with a scientist drinking something and turning into a. It just felt like a kind of cop out, like really cheesy, like typical situation. I understand why it happened.
A video game boss,
and the lore purposes for it. I just think they could have executed it in a way that didn't feel so silly.
But he was wearing a mask of his own face.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Like, it makes it all better. At least we get that mask.
But what I was quite disappointed with, not disappointed exactly with, but it could have been maybe done a bit better, was the final boss fight with Cordicus. And a lot of the comments that I've seen have been, oh, it was far too hard to solo. I kept dying, or my arm was broken. I did it with 3 people, and we cheesed it. So it's it's a very very unbalanced.
They changed it, didn't they?
They did.
Have they changed it?
They've nerfed the fight. So first of all, one of the things that caused me and I did die a couple of times in that instance. And 2 of the times was because of the Jade Bow. So the Jade Bow was my original death, and then I ran back in, and he killed me right again, which is understandable. So they removed the Jade Bow, and don't get me wrong, I didn't really have a problem with him. My only problem with the instance is it's a small room. Yeah, depending on the character you're playing, the size of character you're playing, it's a very confined visual space. So that was my only real gripe with it.
Well, I think the fact that it was really small and that you have bloodstone fragments AOE everywhere that you step, and you just take so much passive damage if you're not on it.
Ads, and there's just so much going on in that tiny little space.
Yeah, and also the 5-second interrupts every 8 seconds.
Right, so they changed that as well. They give you a little bit, I don't know the exact thing, but they give you a little bit more time to react to the special action hotkey now. It's not quite as immediate, right? There's a delay.
Yeah, that was so, you had like half a second to react. Oh my god.
Yeah.
So I soloed it on my necro. I think I died once. I went down a lot of times though, but it felt, I can understand why people are frustrated. Obviously on a class that's, if you're playing like a Zerk Alley or a Thief or something, that's gonna be a nightmare.
I was reading those comments, and I totally understand what people are saying and why. Like, it didn't frustrate me, even though I died like I think 2 or 3 times maybe my original playthrough. And I understand why that frustrates people, especially like someone said 50 times. You know, they died a lot over and over and over again. So I do understand that. But I must have seen in the thread at least 10 times, and that's not an exaggeration. You know, saying 50 times is an exaggeration, but at least 10 times, 7 times, something like that. The comment was, this fight is unfair. It's too hard. I keep getting wrecked on my glass my glass thief. My what do they call it? Thief glass cannon. Yeah. I'm a thief glass cannon, and this fight is just wrecking me. Okay, then don't play a glass thief.
Yeah, if
you're soloing, I realize you might not have
survivable bits and pieces.
Right, I realize you might not have different armor, but switch up the traits a little bit, change your utilities a little. You know what I mean? Like,
of course, that's tough when it's the very end of the instance.
I am a glass character, and look, you keep killing me. This is unfair. I hate it.
Yeah, it's crap.
I hate it. You're playing a glass thief.
It's almost like there's a trade-off for going
Yeah.
high damage, isn't it? Who'd have thunk?
I learned that back in season 2 with the Nightmare Tower. That just wrecked me and my build. And so
Oh,
I
that was
went full
painful.
vitality, full toughness until I learned how to play my character a little better. And then I switched it back. So, but yeah, but no, there was a lot going on in that fight. I had some trouble with it. I died, I don't know, maybe 5 times, but at least the NPCs would res you if you called for help.
Yeah.
That was nice.
But Anise was sort of on the fence about it for me. Sometimes she was a little bit too self-involved.
It's like, Anise, quick, Anise, res me.
She-
And she's like, nope,
Yeah.
I'm busy. I can't. I'm swinging my sword. I'm not coming to help you. Son of a... Damn it, Anise.
But after the fight, and we go to Cordicus's really weird bedroom.
Well, before that, real quick,
Oh, is there a
Canuck
second?
is free.
Oh, he is
Is a
free, isn't he?
Sylvari.
Yeah.
Canuck
He doesn't want to roll with us.
Once again, Canuck was phenomenal. Easily my favorite character currently. He gets all the cool lines. He's so snarky, and I love it. I love
This
him.
episode absolutely made me fall in love with him. I always liked him, but this episode made me fall in love with Canuck. He was great.
Canuck
The writing was spot on. The voice acting was spot on.
I've really warmed to him. He's my kind of sociopath, and there was there was just something that wasn't quite connecting with me, but now I'd go for a drink with Canuck in Lion's Arch and just be like, so all those player characters, eh? Bunch of prats.
Niece,
And
I
be
didn't
like,
see you
yeah.
standing completely within my line of sight.
Yeah, oh, he's so
The snark is so
brilliant.
good.
Yeah, like, and at the end, lady, you convince, like, indenture, Valette, basically.
Yeah.
And she
Valette takes his place.
she's like grateful, and he's like,
give it a week.
I don't remember his exact comment. Maybe somebody else will, but he's just like, careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
Like that.
Give it a week, you'll want to go in that cell.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
You'll be longing for that jail cell. It was so great.
But then we go upstairs to Cordicus' room, and
Cordicus is
probably
gay. Cordicus is gay. He's gay for Logan.
that's the big reveal.
That whole that dialogue between you and Canuck about the Logan picture.
I just
Don't tell.
let's not ever tell
bed.
Logan.
Above his bed, he's got a ceiling
Oh
mirror.
my god.
Yeah.
Now, boys
Okay.
and girls, there's only one reason that
Boys
you
and
ever
girls.
have a mirror above your bed, and if you don't know what it is, then go and ask your parents. Google it.
Oh my god, yeah, that was so great. Just such a nice little touch there. You just come off of this big battle and all these big a character death and a character transformation, and you go in there and it's just like, oh, I didn't notice the mirror the first time because you have like 5 things to interact with, and I went right for the desk because it was right next to us.
Me too.
And so I didn't get to interact with anything else. Now, granted, like 3 of them were just like, nope, that's not it. But like the bed thing was hilarious, and I didn't even get to experience that because I went right for the desk, and then the instance was over, and I couldn't interact with anything.
Same thing happened to me.
So
I missed
on my
to-
second playthrough with Bog, we noticed the mirror thing together because I told him don't go for the desk, and oh my god, I just lost it. I was like, oh my god.
I have to go back in and do that because I've only completed this, like, I'm almost done the story again for a second time. The first time I did it, like you, I looked at the picture and then I went to the desk and it turned everything off, and I'm like, there was like 10 green, there was all these dots on the map. What the heck?
See, the same thing was in the first instance. You talk to like 3 people when there's like 7 or 8 stars, and of course you get super pissed that I didn't get to talk to everybody, but then you do get a chance to go back and do it. So
I didn't know that, so I kept
missed
restarting the
story.
story.
You can talk to Jenna.
What?
At the start.
Before you finished it, really?
Yeah, I would talk to 3 people, and I knew there was all these people in the map. I talked to 3 people, and something happens at the gate, and I'm like, I want to talk to everybody. What are you guys doing to me? So I'm like, you know what? I'm recording this. My first time I've ever played it. Quit the instance. Let's start the instance all over again.
No.
And I did that 3 times, and then I complete the gate, and everybody's walking around to talk to, and I'm like,
Nah.
Well, good on you, ArenaNet, for thinking about that. I
Yep.
didn't think that would be a thing, so I just kept restarting the story to play it again and again and again.
It's raw.
I'm like,
That's dedication, Inks. That's dedication.
Oh man.
You can talk to Jenna at the very start as well before you start talking to the other NPCs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't do that. And afterwards, you don't get the option to talk to her again.
You
Only
have to
the
know
other
the
NPCs.
difference between the story star with the little bubble around it
Yeah,
and then
yeah, that was
adjust a story
I just
star.
got distracted and never spoke
Yeah,
to her.
I was
first.
curious. I was like, wait, is she the final thing, or do
Yeah,
I talk to her
yeah.
first? It was, yeah. We went
What's
all the
this-
dialogue.
There's something really cool as well that that I don't know if you guys noticed in the little village bit in Lake Doric, just north of the Temple of the Six. You know, there's the bit where you go up the little wooden staircases to get one of the mastery points, and there's a locked door that you can't get into.
Yes.
Yes.
Once you complete the instance, that unlocks, and you can go in there and you can actually buy decorations from Cordicus's manor. In there for your guild hall, so there's like a guy sitting. There's like his head butler in there who's essentially just looted a load of stuff, including the picture of Logan and a ceiling mirror. And I think there's a super expensive one where you can get
Yeah,
that
the
amazing
the
kind of-
waterfall with his face, the illusion.
Yeah.
But, it's all
Oh,
the
I think you
pieces
can get that as
get.
well, but it's
Mhm.
it's a ton of money and a ton of some particular currency as well, I think.
Yeah, I haven't. I read about that in a forum thread, but I haven't actually been back there to look at it myself. But yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's just a really great little like hidden away thing, and but yeah, like it was so cool. And at the end, at the end we discover that Lazarus is not all.
Mersan.
Yes.
Lazarus.
See, I mean, I understand why it was in a letter and stuff, or in a journal or whatever, but I feel like it should have gotten a bit more of a focus. You know, it felt.
I
like
imagine it will now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And before we get into it, I just want to go back to a point that I did make probably a couple of months ago after Raid Wing 3 came out, that I was already slightly annoyed that the room after you beat Zera was where Lazarus was resurrected, and he pops up at the end of
Episode
Episode
1?
at the end of episode 1. Yeah, I just forgotten what it was called.
Doesn't
Episode
matter.
1, yeah, that one. And I was like, kind of, well, Lazarus he's quite a bit of a thing to do with the living story now, so I should have thought that Zera's room at the end of the castle, it should have been involved. Now Lazarus, like at Lazarus's actual resurrection, the resurrection itself is now integral to the living story. That only irks me more that you didn't get to see that room. On top of that, there is also a letter between Zera and Cordicus. If you do the Master of Puppets achievement, so Zera's in communication. And again, I mean, I'm sure if you watch Tea Time on Sunday, they're going to have a massive discussion about raids and everything. But
You're right. It's a bridge between the living world and raids, and not everyone plays raids and isn't really
and
understanding the full
it was
picture.
just this thing about that now Lazarus's imperfect resurrection is so crucial to the living story.
Mm-hmm.
His actual resurrection room, where someone went in, I can only assume that it was Zera, someone went in and messed around and didn't put one of the facets in properly, or substituted it with a false
Yes, somebody did for Cordicus.
yeah.
Mhm.
And now that Lazarus is imperfect, he's not a true Messiah.
Right, so
Like,
that's an
that,
interesting
to me,
discussion.
is so critical.
Is
like,
somebody moonlighting as Lazarus, or is it Lazarus? But that part of his personality is incomplete, and that's why he's
The
good guy
way
Lazarus.
I understood it from what I read is that it's not Lazarus, that without all
No,
five
it's-
pieces, because he split himself into 5 pieces, so if you don't have all 5
Right.
pieces, it's not him. But the question is, did the summoning ritual work, or did this person who is masquerading as Lazarus make them think that it worked? Like, did it work and they summoned some other creature, or did they not summon anything? It was a complete failure. But whoever this is who planted it, did they make it look? Obviously, then they made it look like it works.
I think that it is mostly Lazarus. There's
So you think it's like a Voldemort situation where like it is Voldemort, but like it's not all of Voldemort because he split himself?
There was a particular book I read. It's called the Newsflesh trilogy. It's about zombies, and there was this particular cloning / resurrection thing with one of the characters, where they try and clone this character, but they do it to an imperfect degree because they can't get it right. And so, have you read those inks? If you're not,
no, but I know exactly where you're going with this.
Yeah. And so they've, instead of not being able to do it properly, they deliberately. I mean, this was actually an arc in this book. They wanted to get a perfect one and then scale it back to make an imperfect one that they could control. So if someone's deliberately crippled Lazarus's abilities to be a true Massat, possibly with the intention of controlling him. Now, I have my own particular theories, which I'm not quite sure I want to go into yet, because I think that might go places where it may potentially spoil where we go from here in terms of the next expansion and future living story updates. But
so it's interesting. Go ahead, Corvus.
I think it's definitely between whether this is like someone masquerading, pretending there's like a grand illusion or something. It's not really anything. It's just a fake, or whether it is him, but he's not fully himself. Right. So he's. The one thing that's making me not think that it's only parts of him is just that he seems pretty well put together mentally. You know, he's not like kind of jaded. He knows what's going on. He knows what the White Mantle is and what they were, and he's said, you know, I'm not bothered about human politics. I'm after grander things, or whatever he says, and more noble causes. You don't say that kind of thing if like there's a shard of your personality cut. It just doesn't seem like the way a character. If you were to write a character that was broken like that, I don't think you would write it how they've written Lazarus so far.
So here's.
I think it would be a good plot point in the future if someone accidentally put the 5th piece back, or the 4th piece. I can't remember how many.
It's just that what Knox said. He said that's so it's not a Marsat. That's why we can see him.
Yeah. It would make sense if that was
I don't know
true.
about if you're not all Marsat because you don't have all the pieces. I don't know.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem.
So here's the. So there's two things. First of all, these letters, or that revelation, is from Caudicus's perspective. So from his perspective, the ritual should have done nothing, right? It should not have worked. It shouldn't have produced anything. And so it leads the characters to believe, well, what if it's somebody else? Maybe it's Avinia, maybe it's Livia, maybe it's Casimir, maybe it's whoever. The problem with that is in episode 1, Lazarus, fake Lazarus, whatever you want to call him, consumes the Bloodstone. He takes it full on and Super Saiyans the thing, and he's like, absorbs it. Would one of those other characters be able to absorb?
He also wrecked everyone in that
Bloodstone.
Yeah.
Right. Well, so that leaves that, well, maybe it's a seer. A seer would be on a Marsat's level of power. Could it consume it? Maybe. But maybe it's more likely that because they were missing this idol, this facet, whatever it was, the ritual succeeds in an unintended way. Yes, it brings back Lazarus, but he's missing many of the Marsat traits. He doesn't have the same perception the other Marsat shared. And yes, he sort of cons that off in as well. My people made a mistake before. I'm very sorry. I want to make up for it. I'm a good guy now. You can trust me. Maybe. Or is he just missing that facet of Marsatness? We can see him because he reveals himself to us.
Yeah.
And he doesn't seem to phase shift. Maybe he can't phase shift because he's missing that part. The question I have is fake Lazarus aware he's incomplete?
That's what I was just about to say. Does he know he's limited? Is that maybe his plan now is to try and regain some power some other way? Does he know he was resurrected like that? I don't know. It just seems a bit. And there's that whole idea as well of maybe Lazarus is just pretending to be nice, you know, and then we kill an Elder Dragon and he absorbs all that magic or something. I think when this first happened and I was playing the episode, I thought it was a really cool stage. It wasn't going the typical he's faking and he's actually evil, and it wasn't going the typical he's actually nice and somehow he's different. It was actually like a really cool way they could mold his character to whatever they like. But I honestly don't think he's kind of a Mersat but incomplete. I don't think that's the case. I think he's acting too different to what he should.
Yeah.
Like, what is it? The personality piece that he's
we've,
missing.
Yeah.
So he's lost his whole personality and all his mememories and all the things.
People in the chat saying Abaddon, Jesus.
That's, well, the thing is,
It's not Abaddon.
I don't think that's beyond the realms of possibility, because a lot of Abaddon and Doric's original story together, that had a lot to do with them messing around with magics and the Bloodstone, and it could be an easy way to get Palo Ojoko involved if.
The problem with saying Abaddon is this would mean a complete personality change for Abaddon. Abaddon in Nightfall, anyway, when we knew him, I mean, there's past texts where it explains that he was different from that. But being in his realm for so long and being who he was, he became this twisted, evil soul he wanted to destroy humanity. He didn't want to save it or help it. He wanted to induce Nightfall, where he could rule and be cruel and evil. His Marganites had an entire library full of names of people they slaughtered and killed. That's not a nice guy. You don't keep a list of victims in a library.
It just
if you're gonna pretend to save humanity and be a good guy. Like
character. I also feel like it's a bit. Oh, Abaddon's a bad guy again, guys. Kind of thing. You know, they're not going to be able to redeem him, and there has to be a plot twist somewhere, and it's not going to be that.
There's definitely a lot of possibilities here, right?
Oh,
there's this incomplete Lazarus possibility, and then there's a possibility that, you know, it could be, maybe it's E, whoever E is. It could be Caspier. I don't really think so, but maybe. It could be one of the classic Guild Wars 2 characters, Avinia, or Livia is one that is like, you know, is Livia Anise or is Livia Lazarus? Or is it a seer? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It could be.
That's another question.
So many people it could be.
But it's like, if it is somebody pretending to be Lazarus, and they made the choice to ally with us. So it has to be someone that can't be that.
And Kanak says, after we tell him, or actually our player character says, it's someone who wanted access to an immense amount of Bloodstone energy and an instant army.
Yeah.
Right.
The ones that follow Lazarus. So, and that could be, if it's not actually Lazarus, why they're masquerading as Lazarus, because of that instant army. They knew that half of the White Mantle were just going to go with him without question.
But he's also kind of allied with us as well now, and it just seems a bit.
Is he?
If it's a supreme overlord guy that's like, yes, I want to take over whatever, and so I'm gonna pretend to be a Mersat to command all these people. It can't be somebody that's kind of connected to the pact or our characters in any way. It just seems a bit. Why be friends with us then? It's not like he's hanging around to steal our information or find out what our plans are. It just felt like why did he appear to save Aurene with us that time?
I mean,
what were the intentions there? What would anyone who's an evil guy gain from doing that, realistically?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people seem to say that it's Livia, which kind of makes sense
Maybe, I don't know.
in some degrees, because due to the Scepter of Ore, if she even still has it at this point, was gifted or created.
But what would her intentions be?
The ancient races. Well, if she's masquerading as a benevolent Lazarus, then
I think she's a niece. But anyway,
yeah, I mean, I'm more leaning towards Livia being a niece. But there's a couple of things which could suggest Livia may have something to do with it. What with the
but you have to think through everything Lazarus has done and said, and then question why would this person, I think it is, say those things? What's their goal here? What's the end game?
Yeah.
And I think that's
why not reveal your true self to us?
Yes, if they really were on our side, why not pull back the mask and say, hey, it's really me, you know, but I have to keep masquerading as Lazarus or the White Mantle are going to turn against me.
Exactly.
Maybe they did this, maybe they're revealing that to Marjorie. Because if we better go next episode and talk to Marjorie, because it's kind of urgent. Sure. Like, oh my God, Marjorie is not with Lazarus. We have to go and tell her what we found. And hopefully it's
Yeah,
not
there's-
just sending her a letter and then she sends us one back
But
saying, nah, it's
but you
cool.
know what? This is cool though. This is like it's cool because we're jamming theories and it's been a while, and also
yes.
there's no solid path that we know of. This is definitely what they're doing here. It's actually like
Right.
we don't know what's gonna happen
Yeah.
next, and I don't know. That's fun.
I do
It's
think
been a while since there's been that.
you're
kind of thing.
right. That is very good. Any theories like this that really get the community talking, and a lot of people are given different theories, is very good. I just think ArenaNet has to handle this very carefully because how pumped were we all when we thought Lazarus had returned? The last Mersat was raised from the dead. How like mind blowing was that? And now we're saying no, that didn't happen.
I mean,
So it has to be
still-
something like equal to or cooler than that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We still technically are saying that he's come back. I just think it's got the potential to be a lot more interesting now that
Right,
instead of Lazarus being the big bad guy, that we
true.
know that
There's this twist thrown in.
having there being a possibly flawed version of Lazarus there, possibly Lazarus does become an ally, and because he's not a true Messiah, his power has been restricted. So rather than having the sole remainder of one of the elder races on our side, we've got perhaps just a powerful magic user.
Yeah, see, but that honestly doesn't sound that exciting to me from like a story point of view. Also, we haven't actually seen any evidence of him being limited in any way,
Right.
other than his
Other than
character
we
is
can
just
see him.
different than
If
what
he's
we
a Mersat,
remember.
If he's
Yeah.
a Mersat, then we
No,
know
it's
he
just
can't
like a
phase.
personality shift, really, is all we've seen. And even then, if anything, that makes him less flawed because he's looking things at a larger scale rather than
Right.
focusing on these tiny
Yeah.
human politics, which overall aren't important. So it's not like he's shown any weakness or any signs of being broken. He's just different to what we remember, and I don't think that's reason enough to think he's being shattered or he's limited or he can't do this or that or he's not got his power back. It doesn't seem like if I wanted to tell a story of that happening, the character I would write wouldn't have acted like Lazarus did. He would have been visibly limited or emotionally or something that he says would have hinted at it more. He seems fine. He's just a nice guy now, and that
Yeah.
doesn't really sell the idea of being broken in
Yeah.
any way. What it does sell the idea of is somebody wanting to rebrand him or get more people on his side for a particular it seems like there could be more of a sinister plot going on underneath as opposed to him being broken in some way. I don't know, it just
Yeah.
seems like not the way to go if you want to tell that story.
Interesting.
It's
stuff.
interesting. Like some people are saying, like they're losing their hype because they really thought. For me, it intensifies it. It adds a bigger mystery that I want to know the answer to. I don't know.
Yeah.
It doesn't
That,
diminish.
you know what?
my hype.
Yeah, you're right. It doesn't diminish, but it doesn't necessarily hype me up more. But I love the question of, okay, who is this really? More than, is Lazarus good? Is Lazarus
Yeah,
not good?
100%.
This is
Agree,
way more
100%.
intriguing.
Definitely.
So.
It has to be old and powerful. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't want it to be so. I don't want it to be like surprise. It's been Casimir all along. Like certainly, I don't want that.
I just wanted to spy on
I
Marjorie.
would
'cause it's gonna
scream
be
if it's that.
Yeah, I mean,
wanted some alone
certainly.
time with Marjorie.
Yeah, this is how we're working our relationship out, guys. It's role play.
Yeah.
But I don't think I'd be amazed if it was Palo Joko, because
It feels a bit like a shoehorn, like
Yeah,
just kind of
he's
out of nowhere.
He's got all of Ilona to run. You know.
Yeah, it would be too out of nowhere
Yeah,
completely.
and Nox Conrurik's very, very dead.
Double
unless
dead.
double dead, unless
3 times if you did hard mode.
yeah, unless he did this thing where they go Rurik is Lazarus and he's also got the sword.
Oh, and he's gonna cure the ghost, but he's also a
Ah.
Mersat now, and he was
Yeah.
brought back. So he's,
Well,
Yeah,
now you're
that
just
would-
being silly.
Yeah. You watch it happen. You watch it happen.
Well, we'll find out in a couple months, or we won't. I don't know.
probably
Or not.
Or not.
Who knows?
It might be a next expansion in a year. All right, guys, we're going to wrap up the show there, but please stay tuned if you're watching live on Twitch because we're going to continue the discussion. There's a lot more in this patch that we want to discuss, but we're going to wrap this package up here. So thank you so much for watching. If you're watching on YouTube, go down into the description and click on all of these guys' channels and click the subscribe button for more Guild Wars 2 content. And we'll see you next Guild Gab. Take care, guys. Bye.
See ya.